Good day, it's Mo with Picky Sista, and I am here today with my able-bodied assistant, Claire, a college student at Loyola University in New Orleans. And today we are going to make Banzai salsa. Banzai is a Japanese word for a battle cry, and we're making a hot salsa. And this particular salsa was named after a customer of mine who wanted me to make salsa with some pineapple in it. So here it is. So first I'm going to talk about what canning is. Canning is you use jars and heat and a sealed container with your items in it, and then we put them in hot water for 10 minutes, 15 minutes. They come out, and then you'll have your jar of salsa or whatever you're making for a long time. So this particular recipe will make about 14 pints. The lids that I use are from Ball, and these are an 18-month lid, which means that unopened, that these jars, when they're sealed, will stay fresh and safe for 18 months. Once they're opened, then you're going to want to put them in the refrigerator. And once they're in the fridge, maybe a month. You have to be careful with any tomato products. This is a tomato-based salsa because tomatoes can have trouble with getting something called botulism. We don't want that. So my particular salsa was tested by the state of Alabama and proven to be at a safe acidity level. The pH of any kind of salsa or anything that you can has to be under 4.3. My salsa tested out at under 4, so it's like 3.93. So trust me, you follow this recipe exactly, you're going to be safe, and so will the people you serve it with. The Banzai salsa is a little hot, but we are going to use tomatoes, two types of diced tomatoes. One is a fire roasted, which I really like. The company I use is Muir Glen. What I did is in my air fryer, which they're fabulous by the way, is I picked some habaneros from my garden. Habaneros are a really pretty orange color, and then I air fried them, so I fire roasted them in the air fryer. And I have a little trick so you don't ever get any pepper on you. Habaneros are 10 times hotter than a jalapeno. Their Scoville units can go up to 350,000, and a jalapeno can go up to anywhere from 1,000 to 100,000. Probably the average is 50,000. So we take the little tongs and we hold, when I say we, I mean me and my multiple personalities. I hold the pepper here in order to cut it. So then we're just going to chop it off, and we're going to get this going into little, we're going to grind it, but I just want to get them cut into little pieces. I've added a little bit of the juice from the tomatoes into the small little grinder I have, because these are kind of dry, because they're got all their moisture out of them, but it makes them really delicious, and it gives kind of a fun little chunk of color in it. So we're going to, while we're grinding these, we're going to go ahead and get the caramelized pineapple. So we've got a half a cup of sugar, and the pineapple I buy the pineapple in its juice. I have done it with fresh pineapple, but honestly, you can't tell the difference in flavor with using a can. And again, the pH of pineapple in a can is under 4. So again, we're staying under that 4.3, which is very important. So we're just going to sprinkle the sugar. I know it has sugar, but trust me, how much salsa do you eat at a time? So we've got a half a cup of sugar, and we're going to make 14 pints, which 14 pints times 16 ounces is a lot of salsa. We're going to stick these in the oven at 400 degrees until it all caramelizes, because that will be going into our salsa. Next, what we'll do, so we're going to go ahead, you can go ahead and put those in the oven. Okay, we are in the process of cutting up 3 pounds of onions, which is about 6 to 8 onions depending on their size. And we are going to put them in the food processor just to get them chopped up enough. Now you can make your salsa as chunky as you want. I prefer it to be, that's good. I prefer it to be like what you get in a Mexican restaurant, so then you can eat more of it. It's a little thinner, not big huge chunks in it, but that is entirely up to you. So we're going to go ahead and process these and the diced tomatoes, and then we're about ready to mix everything together and get going so we can have some chips and salsa in about an hour. We are chopping our onions. I like them kind of fine, just so you don't get the big chunks, but if you want big chunks of tomato or onion, it's totally fine with me. I'm not going to judge you. It's just the way you like it. And this only takes maybe 4 or 5 pulses, and we're ready to start with our salsa. So this is how it looks straight out of it. And the next thing we'll do is all the tomatoes. I'm going to get Claire to do the tomatoes, and we're going to start pouring things into our pots. I usually have a big pot, but we're in the process of relocating, so my big pot is missing in action, so we have 2 small pots. Well, they're 8 and 9 quarts each, which is quite a bit. And my able-bodied assistant is pulsing away at the tomatoes. So once again, I think that looks good. Perfect. 2 number 10 cans, 1 of diced tomatoes, 1 of crushed tomatoes, 2 1-quart cans of Muir Glen fire roasted tomatoes, 3 pounds thereabouts of onions, 1/2 cup of garlic, 8 ounces of lime juice, 1/8 of a cup of salt. Pickling salt is what I always use. And then the habaneros. And we're going to taste test as we go to see how much of the habaneros to put in. While we were chopping these, it was like, oh, they are very strong. We should be actually wearing masks, but we're not. So we're going to go ahead and assemble everything. Okay, now we have the 2 types of tomatoes, the onion, the garlic, the lime juice, the salt, and the caramelized pineapple, and the juices from the pineapple and the juices from the diced tomatoes. And we're going to stir these up. You can see that fire roasted tomatoes give it a really, really fun color with the little bits of the roastiness. So we're going to stir it occasionally and let this cook for about an hour. Our salsa is ready to be put into the jars. Again, why do they call it canning when actually it should be called jarring? But jarring doesn't sound so good, so it's called canning for some reason. So we're going to go ahead, and if you were here, you'd be able to smell the smells and see the bits of caramelized onion. And then here we're going to leave a 1/2 inch headspace, as we call it, and we move on to the next one. And then once we have 7 filled, these jars are hot. They just came out of the dishwasher. We will wipe the rims, put the lids on, and then we'll put them in the hot water bath, the canner, for 15 minutes. Okay, Claire has filled 7 jars, 7 pint-sized jars, because that's all the canner will hold. I've got a spatula that is called, it's granite ware. It's a little kit I got, and this is to make sure that all the air bubbles are out of the salsa. And the air bubbles don't really hurt, but we want to make sure we get this to settle as much as possible. And then she's going to wipe the rim of each of these jars and making sure there's no salsa on the jars, because we need to put that lid on that has a rubber seal. Now we have the 18-month ball lids. They're 2-piece. So what we do here is we put a lid on and then take a ring. And this is a cool little gizmo that has a magnet on it. So I'm going to place them on, and then Claire is going to come behind me, and she's going to actually tighten them, but they only need to be hand tightened. We're lowering the jars. We have 7 jars in here into the hot water bath. You want to make sure there's at least 1 inch of water over it, and then we put the lid back on. It's behind you. Then we set the timer for 15 minutes. In 15 minutes, we are going to have salsa. Here they come, the babies. The babies are out of their bath. Their hot water bath. And, oh, it just clicked, which means it's sealed. Now good for 18 months. We're going to leave them here for 24 hours before they get relocated to be stored. I came up with this name after a favorite customer. Banzai, I'm going to repeat myself, is the Japanese attack warrior, and I think you want to attack this salsa because it's so delicious, and it has a little bit of that sort of Hawaiian, which is Japanese inspired flavor with the pineapple. So most pineapple salsas, that's Gunner, he totally agrees. Right, Gunner? Most salsas that have pineapple and habanero are orange in color and light, but this is a tomato base. So bon appetit, and please like my YouTube channel. Next, coming up, we're going to do blackberry jam, including a zippy blackberry jam. Yum, yum, yum. Mwah.